So without further ado, let's bring in George. George, how you doing?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much for having us. I'm so glad you're doing this live and we can actually talk to people, right? We've got some people that can ask questions and we can
Yep.
interact. Yeah, okay, great. It's always a lot more fun when we get those questions.
Cool. Now, I think at this point, I'm going to turn over control of the PowerPoint to you so you can take that over, and the guys will take a second or two to make sure it's your PowerPoint showing in the right
Yeah,
window.
sure. Yeah,
But
yeah. That's
hey,
great.
there you go.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so this first slide, this is a little nod to who we are. I don't know if anybody out there, how familiar you are with Epiphan, but we often say broadcast without barriers. And it's kind of like what Gary was talking about a minute ago, in that we're trying to make video accessible for teachers. We're trying to make it so that schools can do all the things they want with video, but without as much of the complexity that has typically been involved when you're setting up video productions, right? Even that word production, we try not to use it when we're talking about higher ed applications because we want it to be a lot more seamless than that. And if you know anything about our history, it's probably a little bit about our history in space. So you know this, Gary, we've got
Yes,
products
I
up in
do.
space today, and this is where we started, and it's still there today. There's stuff on Everest. There's stuff with this group called Under the Pole who uses us in this incredibly hostile environments to capture video. And that's because that's what really good at. It's just making sure that video is easy to record, easy to capture, easy to stream. Since
I,
then,
I
we're
want
kind
to
of everywhere
interrupt you
else
for a
now.
second because
Yeah.
it's more than that, and you're selling it short. You guys also build in like a medical industrial grade your gear, and there's a lot of other gear that's out there that does some of the stuff that yours does, but it's not built for that environment of a school with students and being moved from classroom to classroom. Your stuff is built like tanks. And I think there's a lot to be said for that because schools can rely on them and know they're just going to work and keep working. So not only easy to use, but they are incredibly reliable and stable.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better with myself. And that's why we've been successful, because people, like, in any kind of video situation, just like today, James and Adam running this show for you today, they're going to sweat bullets if something goes crazy, right? Something goes wrong. So they're going to want to use the best gear they can. So it's the same thing in education. People don't want
Yep.
to have any risk, and we try to mitigate that risk. That's why we've exploded in the world of academia in the last couple of years. Pick your school logo. There's probably a chance that some department within that school is using Epiphan, primarily in the higher ed, but we're also seeing growth in the high schools as well.
I paid tuition to one of those logos from one of my kids. So
I'm so sorry. It's only 4 years, I hope. But when we talk about video in higher ed, I'd love to hear what the people who are watching see that, how they see that value, because we often talk about the idea as though it's you're live streaming to a bunch of remote attendees. And while that is true, you get accessibility that you can have people not show up to class and they can watch video. That's not actually the main deal. It's that students want that video because it enhances their learning experience. Just like this call today here, Gary, like if I can review the things that we talked about in this call later, I'm going to be much smarter if I do that. And it means I'm not here scribbling notes. So that's what people are using all this video for. They just want to have that record of it, that archive.
And
And
to that, I want to say that, I think you're spot on. I think students want to watch the video live, but they love knowing it's on demand. If there's a part they were a little
yeah,
confused on, want to follow up on, or maybe tomorrow's video reminds them that they got to go back to something from the other day. And I don't think people are understanding, not everyone, but so many people are visual learners who can just learn how to do something from a video much more so than necessarily reading an instruction manual. I know, my kids learned how to do so many different things like solving a Rubik's Cube from YouTube videos, not from cheat sheets or, instruction
yeah,
manuals.
yeah, yeah. And then all of the AI that they can do on that they can take this 1 hour long conversation and say, tell me when they talked about the VOD section. When did that happen? And just get that little snippet of it. So there's
Yep.
so much more power in video today than there was a year ago. And the students, of course, are like the furthest ahead on that curve, right? So now it's about making sure faculty see that value, making sure all those school administrators see that same value.
I agree.
Yeah, so this data here, this comes from Panopto here, which is probably a topic we'll talk about a little bit later too, the whole CMS side of
Yep.
things. When you get to, it's one thing to record all of that content, you need a place to be able to play out all of that content as well. So we work well with all of those systems like Panopto and Kaltura. Um, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about where that video is happening on campus. We, of course, think of classrooms, right? Doing lectures, but there's so much more video that can happen on a school campus. And we did a survey last year with a lot of AV people and IT people at campuses when we asked them, are you taking advantage of the opportunities for video and education? And you can see here, about half of them think they're not. So this gets me excited because it means, oh, I've got a lot of people to talk to, right? They all see this opportunity. So what I've been trying to have conversations about, like, what is preventing those people from installing video in all the places on campus? You have, of course, classrooms, you have podcast studios, you have events, you have sports, you have big auditoriums. So there's all these cool conversations happening, and people are going, well, how come we're not capturing that? So it's a really good time to be in higher ed video, the technology side, because it's kind of exploding right now.
And I just want to add something to that, and that is that I hope some of the people watching these shows are IT professionals at these institutions, because they tend to be the biggest barrier. Even after COVID and having video streaming and all that stuff, they're still kind of concerned about having video running ramped, all over their network and bringing their networks down and crashing their network. So I do feel that
they should be. They're a problem, but they're also, it's like if they can set up a situation where they have 100 classrooms to manage, that's pretty good job security for them. So there's a real advantageous reason for them to adopt video.
I agree completely. And what you said is very important. The command and control of the devices is as important as the video itself. And that's where you can really scale and create an IT department that's really delivering a lot more than you thought you could, because you don't have to send someone into every single classroom or lecture center to make sure everything's working right.
Yeah,
so that's where you guys really shine.
Exactly. Like if the alternative to our solutions, which we'll talk about here today, we sell appliances. So you take one of these Pearl systems and you put them in a room, you'd never have to go in that room and manage it. Whereas like historically, people would have computers running in those rooms to do that job of capturing, recording, and streaming that video. Well, computers are a pain, right? You've got to go from room to room. Things happen with them. They break, things get unplugged. So they're very high maintenance in the land of IT. So we have a lot of people saying, please just give me anything that's not a computer, because I can't scale 1,000 computers across campus. It just doesn't work. But you can with devices like this, like you said, 100%. The whole management side. Yeah. So maybe, can I tell you about our latest product that has been kind of the bee's knees around higher ed?
What a great segue.
So this is Pearl Nexus, and we put this out a year ago, almost to the day. And it has quickly become our most popular product. And it's because it's such an easy fit into a classroom. I hear voices in my background, and I don't know if you're talking to me.
Nope, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so this is Pearl Nexus. It doesn't look like it's straightforward, right? It's a piece of equipment you're going to put in a lectern at the front of a classroom. But what it's going to do is allow you to capture all the video that's happening in that classroom and send it where it needs to go, quite simply. And if you're a faculty member, it means you've got this classroom that's automated, hopefully. So all you have to do is walk in and teach and know that you've got your cameras being recorded, your presentations being recorded, anything else that's connected in that room, there's an audio system, it's all going to get recorded and sent to where it needs to go. The IT people who are watching, the AV people will know that these logos are really important, and that you have other systems like Crestron and QSys that are set up as control panels in those rooms who are often controlling our devices. And then our devices are sending that content off to Panopto and Kaltura and other places. So the short of it is, whatever you have installed in that room, whatever systems you're using, whether it's software or hardware, it's going to play nice with Epiphan. It's another one of our calling cards. You can see the back of this device here. If you want to know what you can connect, we can talk about this all day, of course. But again, whatever you got, there's going to be a way to get it in here. So you've got HDMI, you've got SDI, you've got USB cameras. If you want to plug in a microphone, you can do that. You've probably got an audio system or a DSP in that room. It's all going to come into Epiphan, and then you'll get it to where you want to go.
Now, I think one of the interesting things about this is this was basically a request from the very customers who use it, from teachers and especially professors in higher education. You basically said, I love the Pearl Mini, but I don't need this screen. And the IT guy said, I need all this functionality without the screen to just be there in the lectern, so the professor has to do nothing. It just works, and that's what you've done. But we had a question from someone come in asking about a portable solution. So I'm going to say everything that the Nexus can do, you can do with a Mini, and that's a device you can move from room to room if you want, especially if you're a school that's maybe an elementary or a middle school that's starting with video and not ready to go big deployment, but you just know a couple of teachers want to use it in their classroom. So I wanted to let everyone mention that. And we can get back to the Nexus now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've got a Mini on my desk here. I keep it here all the time. It's the most relatable product we have because this is all in one. You don't need a control system. You can start recording on here. You can start streaming. You can set it up with a one-touch button. So it's very, very easy to use. So we see people putting these in what I call like a self-serve space.
Exactly.
Maybe it's a podcast studio. Maybe it's a small auditorium where you just want to come in and do some live streaming out of it.
Yep.
This is a really easy solution for people to get into it.
So what I like to say about that one is the talent or lack of talent like me can actually operate and pick from a few presets and actually mix the show to come between, let's say, my presentation, myself, and do I want to just have myself up there, just the presentation, or a pre-select screen with both. The Mini does that with ease, and I can stream, record, and even play back some video I had recorded. And once again, all those features are in the Pearl Nexus, but the Nexus is really set up for scale, for that university system or a school district that wants to have multiple devices that can be controlled remotely. And the remote is, I don't think we're giving the remote enough credit. So I know you've got your Edge technology, and I don't know where that is in the presentation, but I think we need to emphasize that we can set this thing to turn on and off 5 minutes before the professor gets in there and 5 minutes afterward. And each professor can have his own special settings. So let's talk about that scheduling and that automation that's there, because that's really cool. And that's only getting better as, AI and other things get added to that control process.
Yeah, this is my favorite version, Gary, of a classroom where that faculty doesn't have to think about anything at all. Where you can come into that room and know it's just going to record, or it's going to stream. It's going to do whatever you want it to do, but you can schedule it all in advance. Like, this, like coming into this event here, I'm hustling. I've got this PowerPoint open. I added 6 slides, which we're going to see later on.
Yep.
I'm kind of nervous because I got all these things I got to come in. I don't really want to have to come in here and remember how to use some piece of equipment that I might not even know how to use properly. So the fact that you can just automate this, people like it. The teachers like it.
I think it's a killer.
So, yeah, and you can automate it a bunch of different ways. You can automate it through our cloud. So that's what you're referencing. We've got, Epiphan Edge, which means when you're logged in, you can see all of your devices and you can schedule them. Or what we see more often is it's being automated through some third-party scheduling system. Like APIs are everywhere now. Most people are building APIs into everything they're doing, and it's often how they're scheduling our devices as well.
And when you're talking APIs, you're really talking about integration with like Panopto and Kaltura and the other CMSs. So should we talk about that a little bit here, or do you want to get to that later in the presentation?
I think I've got. Well, here, let's show a picture of what it might actually look like installed. Cool. So this is a diagram showing you've got maybe 3 video sources connected, just like this show here today, where you've got a camera on you, camera on me, and my slides. And you can bring all of that into Pearl. And you can bring in your audio, and then you can send all of that content off. In this case, it's to Panopto, but it can be to anywhere. It can be to any kind of CMS. It can be to YouTube if you're just getting started. It doesn't have to be one of these CMSs. It could be going to a Teams call. So again, you have that flexibility to do whatever you want. But the most important part is this big red record icon here, which means no matter what's happening and where you're sending that content, you've always got it recorded locally to the device. And that's like the biggest security blanket that any AV person or IT person cares about, because they know they've always got that to go back to, because anything else can happen downstream. The network can go out. There could be some other problem with their local network, but it's always going to be recorded locally to the hard drive of the system.
It's backing up in real time as the lecture is going on.
Yes, and you don't have to clear this hard drive, because some people have had computer-based workflows where the drive fills up and then suddenly they can't record anymore. This will just overwrite itself after it goes through its terabyte hard drive. Yep. So it's kind of self-maintaining.
Cool.
I can show you.
I was going to say, I love that feature. Can you explain it a little bit more?
Yeah. So in most cases, let's say you record for a week or a month. Well, by the end of that month, you've already transferred all of your footage off of this device to where you want it to be permanently stored, either a cloud location or a local server. This thing, as soon as it records, it pushes those files to that server, which means it will just start rewriting itself over top of the old files a month later when it's full. So it just means you don't have to think about recordings. You don't have to think about file management. It kind of does all of that for you.
It's almost like a security system, like the way, the security monitoring system works.
Yeah, same principles.
Cool. Now, you guys had a really great success story with UNLV. So can we dive into that?
Sure, I can show you a picture of their diagram, what it looks like, which is pretty similar to what I just showed you, except in this case, they have a little bit more in-room equipment. They have an AV matrix and they have a Crestron control panel. But again, these are all kind of similar when you go from school to school. And in their case, they operate our devices. They don't use the Pearl Mini, they use the Nexus. In fact, they were a big part of helping us develop the Nexus and giving us the input in terms of what they needed. So we're quite close to them as a customer and just as friends as well. And you can see here, if a teacher comes in a room, they use the front screen and the touch panel at the front of the room. And they're using it beyond just classrooms too. So of course they have it in this picture here. This teacher's at the front of the room. Our Pearl is in that lectern at the front, but they've also got it in their golf simulator rooms. Of course, it's Vegas, so they've got a few different kinds of spaces that they teach to. They've got cooking kitchens as well, where they have to route a lot of video into all of the screens within the room as well. So that's usually a consideration that anybody doing video is trying to figure out, how do I route video internally as well? And our devices have a couple of HDMI outs on them, so you can usually route video to where you need to get it. Another application would be their larger auditoriums. So they've got us in, I think, about 350 different kinds of spaces. So they're a very forward-looking school when it comes to video adoption. And I know probably a lot of the people here are just getting started, but it's nice to see kind of where some of the people are going.
So this is eduStreamTV, and we hope we have a lot of not just teachers, but principals and deans and chair people and IT department heads. So if someone is out of school and they're like, this seems pretty cool, I don't have the budget of UNLV, but I've been trying to get this solution for 10 or 15 classrooms, they can call us. We'd be happy to help them. We'll put them together with a local integrator if they need a local integrator for installation. We'll also get them on the phone with you guys if they want help with diagramming, because I think what's important for these schools to know is we're here to assist and be a part of your team putting it together. That we know there's some complexity beyond just installing a device and plugging it in to get it going. Once we get it set up, your professors, it's automatic, it's easy, but we have the resources here, plus you guys, to get people the help they need to get something like this set up. And I understand they can get demos, and we can even, if there's a big enough opportunity, get them some demo gear, and even perhaps have a Epiphan, someone come and work with them on it. So I just want to stress to those people with those bigger scale projects, we're here to help you. And I can't think of a better solution than a Pearl. And if it's on lecterns, the Pearl Nexus. If it's teachers wanting to control it themselves, let's talk about the Mini a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the perfect, like what we see often are those schools like UNLV. They start out with one device, and they put it in a room because they have to build a bit of enthusiasm around it, right? It's a pilot project. So they'll put it in a place like a one-button studio, and they tell people, hey, you can go in here and just create content. And usually once the teachers see that they can just come in here and push one button and make something, kind of gets them excited. Or they get students involved, and the students are going in and creating that content. So setting up that small pilot environment with just one, put it through the paces. Maybe it's something that grows from there.
No, I think that's how it happens a lot. And like you said, UNLV was that way, but a great way. If you're interested in what the Pearl family of stuff can do, the Mini is a great place to start as your proof of concept for a school. And then if you want to roll it out to the Nexus, we can help you do that. Or if it's something where you don't need even the level of what the Mini is, you just need some inexpensive nanos for your other classrooms, because it's one channel in, one channel up, one channel down. So we've got a whole family of products that we can design into your solution, because it might be a combination of some Pearl Minis in the self-study, do-it-yourself rooms, while we have Nexuses throughout in other areas. We might even have a big Pearl in another more elaborate studio or classroom environment. So just such cool stuff. I love that your stuff is at multiple levels. So I kind of segued again. Let's talk about that big Pearl. If someone's really looking to set up maybe a whole auditorium with multiple cameras, but they want it to be easy.
Sure, it could be a large auditorium where, and I mean, the workflow is essentially the same as the other diagrams that we talked about, where you've just got a lot of different camera sources, but you want to make sure that every one of them is recorded, and you probably want to send some of them off to a place where your students are going to watch that content as well. So it could be an auditorium setup, or it could be a place like what we see down the road from me at the University of Laval, where they have a medical sim lab. And if you can imagine trying to get a room of 30 students around a cadaver to look at something, it's not going to work. It's physically just not going to work. So of course, video in that place there's no better application for it. So they've got all these cameras pointed at this subject matter, and then they capture it all into a Pearl 2, and then they've got all the recordings of that, and all the students can digest that content either in an overflow room or some kind of a CMS as well. So the applications that are coming out of higher ed are just crazy.
And I want to jump in on that a little bit, because we've seen some success also, and Laval is a perfect example, but a lot of teaching hospitals. So it's a hospital that teaches attached to a medical school or medical school. We're finding they love the Pearls because they are appliances. They don't take up a whole lot of room. They don't need an operator, which is, a big problem when you're in a limited amount of space and privacy and HIPAA laws and all that other stuff. So we really have found that the Pearls are fantastic in that medical vertical. So for educators, great. This is EduStream. But if you're a hospital that just wants to be a teaching hospital, I don't know that you necessarily are watching this show because maybe you don't consider yourself to be in education, you consider yourself to be a doctor, but it's still a great choice in that environment. And I think that's a sleeper kind of vertical for Epiphan over the next year or two, which is, medical and hospitals specifically.
Yeah, we have quite a few hospitals using us already. And all of these customers, they share one of the same attributes in that they need cloud access into these devices. The reason we've become popular is not just because we have really robust hardware that records all the time. It's that you can control it from anywhere. So this is what we call Epiphan Edge, which is a cloud-based instance, and that you would pair each device to your Edge account. And there's a free account so you can see all of your devices. So if you have 10 classrooms, or you have 5 classrooms, you can log in and see, okay, I've got all my cameras are looking good. All my channels are good. I can see that I'm streaming in 2 of my classrooms, or I can streaming and recording in all of them. So a nice bird's eye view of everything. And if you can imagine some of these teams, they're only 2 or 3 people managing 100 rooms. This becomes a requirement.
And I don't have to be on my network. The command and control is through the cloud. So these Pearls could be anywhere in the world and be controlled from a central person who could be at home. You could be in a knock, you could be at home, you could be traveling on the road with the team if it's a sports related thing, and still be able to control all the cameras. And I think that's the Epiphan Edge is one of those things that make these products, your product specifically, so scalable. And I'm not using the cloud for all my videos, so it's not big and expensive. It's nothing but command and control. Yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 customers this year tell me. One of them, they were controlling a Pearl from a ski lift in Oslo.
Nice.
Because somebody called them and they said something's going wrong, and they just dialed in quickly, and they had to move some files around, so they were able to do that. And then another friend sent us a picture of him on an airplane doing live production of a bunch of Pearl systems while he was, doing some domestic flight. So it does come into play all the time for our customers. It's a real differentiator for us too. Yeah.
And the Edge is something that is not expensive, correct?
Well, like I said, the free version of Edge means you can see all your devices. You can start and stop recording and streaming. So for a lot of our customers, that's all they ever use. And then the ones who get more involved and they want to do scheduling, or they want to have deeper configuration control capabilities, they pay the $25 a month or $20 a month, I think it is, for a subscription, so they can have full, complete cloud access into their devices.
Very affordable. That was the point of it. So it's free or inexpensive. I love that. That's a great winning combination. So let's talk a little bit more about, and I might be skipping on you, but you mentioned APIs a little bit. We went through some of the people you work with, but if we could talk more about the people you work with and also some of the stuff that maybe you're working on where you can't give specific names, but you can give a little peek to people in the education space of where we're going with this stuff?
Well, we've gotten to the point where we kind of work because our API is really strong. We just put out a new API, which means it's really easy to develop our equipment into whatever stack you have now. And there's out of the box integrations with things like Qsys and Crestron and Panopto, and those are pretty much plug and play, ready to go. But with that API, we're seeing this across all of our industries. People are getting clever and they're going, huh, I can use a Stream Deck to trigger my Pearl to start, and I can change the lighting configuration. So we're seeing a lot of ingenuity on the consumer level, but also the businesses who are just stringing all this technology together into unique automated spaces. So if you can dream it, you can do it. I'm pretty sure about that. I don't see any roadblocks to people being able to control Epiphan any way they want because the API is really well documented and robust. So it's pretty
So
neat.
it's super cool. If I was a music school and I had like 12 rehearsal rooms, I could have Pearls set up with them and they could know to start recording when they hear the first note, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff someone who's smart
Yeah,
can do with an
yeah,
API.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool. And then I also want to stress a little bit because, we do NDI November. We're a big NDI proponent and stuff like that. The Pearl Mini and the Nexus support NDI so they can integrate with any NDI environment to be used, not just for lectures and stuff, but in an actual pro video studio type application. Then you also have SRT, which is a great way, to bring people in with video from outside, anywhere in the world to anywhere you are through SRT. It just works.
Exactly. And I know a lot of these higher ed institutions and schools are kind of quasi live event companies too, and that they're
Yep.
doing cool things. They've got guest speakers coming in. They might have some really important people coming in and they want to broadcast that to YouTube or somewhere like that. So these technologies like SRT and NDI come up a lot in those kind of applications.
So I had a hunch when I got a preview of the slide deck we were going to be closer to 30 minutes today, and we are. But I think now we get to the most important part of the program for you, and that is why Epiphan? Why should people say, why do I want an Epiphan Pearl?
I think honestly, I don't have to say it. Talk to your other colleagues at other schools. I'm in marketing. You know how hard it is to market to people in higher ed? We're doing it here today, but what I find about this community is there's so much collaboration in the higher ed community that they're talking to each other and they're all saying, we tried an Epiphan and it worked. So that's who you should be talking to. And if you need introductions, you should talk to us because we probably are working at the school next door to you or the campus next door to you. And it's really because our stuff just works all the time. It's trusted, it's easy to use, and it's ongoing. This development is nonstop. So we've always got new things coming up. So we'll be at InfoComm in June if you happen to be in Florida, and we'd love to see you, and you can come try it and poke it and see how it works.
What I want to hype on out of this whole deck of why Epiphan is trusted. If you put Epiphan Pearls as part of your educational video workflow solution, you can trust it. It's just going to work. We talked earlier about how this stuff is made so well. You can trust it because you can access it without even being there. You don't have to go in the room. You can trust it. You can see it remotely. And then the other thing that I love about it is I don't think you guys give yourselves enough credit for the Swiss Army knife capabilities you have. Really, just about anything someone could dream they need to do with video in an educational environment, a Pearl can handle.
Exactly, yeah. And there are some really great closed ecosystems that some people latch onto, but we're the opposite. We are the open ecosystem. We work nicely with everybody. So some people have come around to us that way, and they want something that's going to work for them in 5 years because they don't know what technology they're going to have. Things are going to change, right? So they want to be ready for that.
I agree completely. We've come a long way since, COVID 5 years ago and where video is in education. And I think one of the companies leading the way is Epiphan. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show, George. And I always say, whenever I do a show, I like to give my guests, the last final word to just say what you ever want to say about EduStream, about yourself, your favorite football team, or Epiphan Video. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Well, thanks so much for spending time with us. And I really hope people actually do reach out and say hi and call us and give us your hardest challenges or tell us why we're wrong. We'd love to hear about it because we're going to learn something from it. That's how we've gotten to where we are today. So if you've got ideas about things you're trying to come up with or solutions you can't quite figure out, call me or call our team and we'll try and help you crack it. And it's been a delight to be here. So thanks very much, Gary and the Broadfield team.
Awesome. Guys, learn more about Epiphan Education, epiphan.com/solutions for education. By all means, go there. And also, you can call us and we'll be happy to help you and get you set up with the guys over at Epiphan too. I just want to check with my team to see if there were any questions or comments that me and George should go over. And it looks like we do have one.
1 second. So somebody asked if you can set the Nexus to auto purge after so many.
Must be a hard one. They're thinking long and hard about this one.
Yep. Can you set the Nexus to auto purge after a certain amount of time, or does it just start overriding automatically?
It just overrides automatically. So that's what we find, I think, works for everybody. You can set it to not do that so that you can manually offload that footage. So you don't have to, if you're worried about it overriding, you can put a safeguard in place.
Cool. And also I can set it to upload to multiple places if I want to. So I could be uploading to the cloud, or I could be sending this to a central storage system that's, back at the home base. Do we have any other questions? Another one came in. We love this.
What is the factory warranty that comes with the product?
What is the factory warranty that comes with the Pearls?
I think we have a 1-year warranty, but we also have an extended warranty that's available as well. And if you talk to Gary and team, they'll hook you up with that.
Awesome. And guys, I just want to say for the record, we have sold, it's more than hundreds, it might have been thousands of sorted pearls. And I don't know of field failures. They just work and keep working. Every now and then we'll get a unit that maybe got jostled up, we had a problem with, we had to do something the first, couple of weeks or a month. But the truth of the matter is these are appliances, set them and forget them. They just work and they keep working. The reliability is outstanding.